Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to our season 2, episode 5, the science behind coffee. Right now, we do have a very special guest. We do have Doc Mel from the De La Salle University, and also we do have Jymer, a coffee enthusiast, and also a home brewer as well. So let's give them a cyber round of applause. And thank you guys for joining for tonight. Okay.
Thank you, John, for the invitation.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll start with Doc Mel first. So Doc, can you please do introduce yourself first para makilala ka namin?
Okay. Share ko lang screen ko. Taga.
Let me pin you. Yan, I'll pin you. Okay, go.
Share ko lang yung screen ko kasi dito ako merong pwedeng pang introduction. Sorry.
Sige lang.
Maybe this one. All right. Good evening, guys. Parang parang press con to, gabi Gusto niyo gawing madaling araw to?
parang kwentuhan lang, Doc Mel.
Casual lang.
Okay. Actually, okay to. Kahit abutin tayo madaling araw, okay lang naman. Tag dito. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, coffee aficionados and coffee professionals. Or, I don't know, maybe there are MDs in this group, but definitely everyone has an interest in coffee. So good evening, everyone. I'm Mel Garcia. I'm the director and mascot of the La Salle Food and Water Institute. My predecessor actually doesn't look the role, doesn't look the part, kaya naglagay sila ng mas malusog na director doon sa La Salle Food and Water Institute. Anyway, I'm with my permanent affiliation is with the chemistry department of course of the LSU, and I've been with the university since 1993 as a teacher. I got my chemistry and education degrees within the same 4-year period sa La Salle din. Yeah. And then, yun, my introduction to coffee is about has something to do with civet coffee. Pero kung may tatanong kayo, mamaya na lang. But basically, what got me into coffee was a curiosity about how to determine if civet coffee is authentic or not. So that was in 2005. But then it got a little bit more complicated, more sophisticated, mga 2014. And then after that, I got to talk with people in the coffee industry, lalo na sa specialty coffee. And then wala na, rabbit hole na, puro kwentuhan na yan. Okay, so I'm thank you very much for inviting me, John. And it's a pleasure and honor to be on the same stage as good friend, Jymer.
Jymer, Doc. It's okay.
Jymer. Yan, mga CDO, coffee science attendees. Yan. Sa CDO ba itong Arcana?
No, Doc.
Hindi, sa Manila to.
Manila
ba ito? Okay. So yun lang, mamaya na ako. Diretso na ba ako?
Go lang, Doc.
Okay, so these are my bosses, and I'm basically the designated coffee taga-timpla ng kape at La Salle. And my other roles as a chemist and as a teacher and a teacher's teacher. And then of course the picture on the leftmost side is hindi yan totoo. Posting lang yan kasi bihira ako magkaroon ng picture sa field eh. Wala ako kasing dalang sarili kong PR team pag nagtatrabaho ako. So may mga lectures na wala akong pictures. So iniisip ko tuloy mga tao, sinasabi nila hindi sila masyadong naniniwala that I'm on the field kasi I don't have pictures on the field. So ngayon conscious na ako, nagpapakuha na ako ng pictures sa mga tao kahit fake kagaya niyang picture sa kaliwa na yan. I would like to show this picture as well kasi the guy on the lady there is my research assistant. She's doing her master's in food science at UST. She's doing her thesis on coffee metabolomics. And the guy behind her, ka-weight division ko yan, si Sherman Chung ng Crema and Cream. And I'm showing you this picture because this is basically what I do a lot of. I go around, I chat with coffee professionals just to make sure that the research that I'm doing is in tune or attuned to the needs and as well as the language and all of the nuances that the coffee professionals have. Kasi marami akong mga ginawa since 2005 na pretty cool chemistry stuff. Kaya lang na-realize ko later on, siguro around 2013, na what I was doing in the laboratory aren't really useful and relevant to people to the coffee industry. So that's what actually convinced me to go around more. And fortunately for me, sa Lasal, wala kaming mga DTR. So I spend a lot of time really outside. Coffee shops, roasteries, farms, doing research. Right. Galing, di ba? Pero totoo to, itong ginagawa namin ni Sherman dito, we were actually doing a particular study. Yeah, I actually enrolled in Sherman's pilot class because again, I don't know everything, no? And I'm also constantly learning, and every time I figure out something, a lot more questions actually arise, and that's the reason why I end up going out, asking the coffee professionals, and then checking out if my understanding of science is attuned to what they're doing, and vice versa. The picture on the right is me doing barista work at Half Saints in Quezon City. It's not quite a stone's throw distance from Sherman's shop, but it's in the vicinity. Eto, ginagawa ko rin to, kaya ako nagbabarista kasi again, when I'm doing research, it's important for me to not only know and understand what the coffee professionals know and understand, but also even feel what the coffee professionals feel. Kasi, of course, knowledge and understanding is one thing in research, but context is another thing. So if I'm not able to put my knowledge and understanding in proper context, then the studies would actually be irrelevant or useless. No? Plus, you must know, no? You guys must know that we have already launched the coffee science elective course at LaSalle, and it's a multidisciplinary course, and it involves obviously various departments and various colleges, which means that the subject, while it is offered by the chemistry department, it's going to be fundamentally science. It's going to be offered it can be taught by, and it will be taught by faculty members from other departments of other colleges. This is so that people would have an idea, the students would have an idea about the different perspectives and lenses that issues surrounding coffee are supposed to be seen. So there would be a chance that the student would end up enrolling with a faculty member from the literature department, or from the Filipino department, or from the engineering, electronics communication engineering department. Of course, magkakaiba yung field nila na expertise, and that's the reason why the way that they would be delivering the course, while there is a set manual for it, the flavor, pardon the pun, the perspective, the lens will be based on their field. And that will be really nice because it's also a demonstration. And this is actually our goal, to show people that the problems, the gaps, the issues in the coffee industry or coffee as an industry are actually multidisciplinary and cannot be solved by just, an expert from one field. Not even one expert, several experts from various fields, right? So in order for me to be able to communicate to my fellow, to my colleagues at LaSalle, I have to learn and understand and feel the whole thing, the whole spectrum of coffee. So yan, wala akong pahinga actually. Saturdays in the lab, Sundays nagtatrabaho ako sa cafe. Para lang alam ko, I'm not even I'm probably a decent barista, but I'm not anywhere good. Getting better, of course, that's always the goal naman, ano. Okay? Para may makwento ko kasi, well, again, another experience is na-realize ko rin kasi yan before I gave a lecture to an audience of baristas. I talked about milk chemistry. After the talk, I realized buti walang nagtanong kung naka-experience na ako mag-steam using steamer, no, ng milk. Kasi at that time hindi pa. And doon ko na realize na no, dapat pala labas ako. So yun, nakiusap ako sa mga friends. Pwede ba ako magbarista sa shop mo? Pwede niyo ba akong turuan mag latte art? Yeah. So all in the spirit of actually being able to communicate and teach people, and also somehow convincing them na sincere naman talaga yung gusto kong gawin kasi gumagawa rin ako ng effort to actually learn. Para hindi lang theory kasi yun naman talaga yung goal. Di ba marami sa atin nung estudyante tayo, ang pintas natin sa mga tao sa academic institutions, all theory but no practice. So we're trying to change that as well. So kaya yan, nagbabarista din ako mga 8-hour, 10-hour shifts. So
Wow.
not bad, ano. Yan, tapos tagahugas na rin ng mga
What
baso,
cafe ito, Doc?
nagwe-waiter na rin. Masaya naman actually kasi yun, maganda experience kasi they don't really even have an idea that the barista is from the academe. So nakakatanggap talaga ako ng what a barista actually gets sa mga customers. It's really fun. Until of course they talk about science. Yan, so masaya. Okay, so science, I'll pull up another lecture. Sorry guys, kumuha ako ng mga iba't ibang mga lectures lang dito and then tell me if this interests you. Share screen ulit. Okay, so of course, you all are interested in the science of things. Ang haba ng backgrounder, pero importante din malaman ninyo kasi yon dahil if you are serious about your craft and you're going to take it to a higher, deeper level na medyo scientific, mas malalim din yung arts, mas malalim din yung about the other issues, whatever issue it is, do remember that all of this information that you are going to use and might eventually share with other aficionados or customers if you're a businessman, or if you're a cafe owner or barista, it has to be based on empirical evidence. It has to be, as much as possible, studies that have been published from respectable journals. So, kasi I think that's the reason why you are here, no? And if you're going to get this information from an academic or a scientist, you also should be aware that the scientist or the academic might not know some things, maybe a lot of things pa nga. So do not be intimidated by them. Understand their role, understand their job, and then try to work with them. Kaya ako kinuwento sa inyo yung intro na yon kanina kasi that's basically what I did going around for the last 4-5 years, spending so much time outside. Kasi talaga, I won't be able to get all of the things. I wouldn't be able to learn and design experiments that are meaningful without me reaching out and chatting and learning from the coffee professionals. So kayo, pag may nakausap kayong mga scientist or academic, gisahin ninyo. That's the way to learn as well. Huwag kayong ma-intimidate sa kanila kasi they're not necessarily smarter than you. They are just basically trained, focused on a particular field for so many years that you weren't. Okay? But in terms of mental, intellectual ability, you probably might be on the same level. Iba lang yung focus ninyo. So, when you're talking to them, treat them as if they're in your level. May PhD o wala, pare-pareho yan. Ako, I'm being schooled by coffee professionals every now and then. And that's okay. That's what science is. Okay? So now I'm showing you some articles like this one about health. So, of course, you're not supposed to read all of these things, but I'm just showing you a slide to show you the different aspects of the science of coffee. Of course, number one would be health, no? Uunahin ko na yung health kasi palagi naman natin pinag-uusapan flavor, etc. Pero rarely do we talk about health, no? So if you wanna learn about coffee and health, you might want to check out this paper from these guys. I'll share you. Naka-record naman to, so makikita ninyo to.
Yes.
Pag hindi nyo masyado naintindihan yung paper, that's one of my roles. Email me or chat with me and then I'll explain to you stuff that you didn't understand here. Well, we don't have enough time to talk about all of these things, but I'm showing you this to you just to get you acquainted with these things. No? May mga publications. Right off the bat, pinapakitaan ko na kayo kagad ng scientific publication kasi ugaliin na ninyo yan na pagka kukuha kayo ng information, mag-share kayo ng information, do the coffee industry a favor, base it on empirical evidence. Okay? So, pag kami nagsabi sa inyo, yung lasa ng coffee kaya ganyan yan kasi ano ba yung mga Jymer, ano ba yung mga myths and misconceptions sa coffee, yung mga sikat, yung mga top of my list, yung flavor ng coffee na acquire daw niya based dun sa mga fruiting trees sa paligid niya. That's one. I just talked with a group of chefs the other day, and that's what they know. Walang ganon. Okay? So walang study yun. The closest that you can get to that is something called allelopathy, but it's not really absorbing the flavor from the fruit. So pag nakatikim kayo ng coffee na merong strong na hint or even just a small hint of papaya, please don't even think na it's because it's surrounded by papaya trees, no? Because I'll really be curious, baka yung papaya lasang coffee, no? Try nyo rin. Hanapin niyo yung papaya. Hindi ako lasang kape. Okay, another another interesting health issue about coffee is acrylamide. In the state of California, a couple of years ago, nagbaba ng ruling yung state court na that obligates all coffee establishments to show a warning sign like the one that we're looking at now. That's because some people lobbied that it has done because coffee contains acrylamide, which is a suspect potential carcinogen, nakaka-cancer na compound. But if you read scientific articles, you would actually learn that there are far more, much higher acrylamide levels in other foodstuffs that you're actually eating.
Wow, pizza, man.
More. And all of those you see on the right side.
Mm.
Okay? Mahilig kayo sa fries?
Yes, guilty. And
yan ang yan.
Sino ba hindi may surprise?
Meron din, no?
Bread. They all have that. So, the amount of acrylamide that you have in coffee is really not much. No?
Hmm.
Kaya lang, syempre yung tanong dyan, which is something we will not talk about here. Bakit siya naging ganun? Ang theory ko lang dyan, syempre, coffee is the big commodity, no?
Yes.
So, inisip ko baka prelude yan sana sa taxation. Parang dito sa Pilipinas, bago nangyari yung sugar tax, lumabas muna yung mga issue ng masama yung sugar. Ano yan, diabetes has reached a pandemic level, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you knew, sugar tax. Parang ganyan. I'm not saying na hindi masama yung impetus, no? Tama naman kasi yung pag-consume natin ng mga refined sugars is actually fast tracking our path to diabetes, no? Okay? Pero I'm just saying na minsan may mga ganyan, may mga weird na bagay na bakit ganun? Bakit may batas for coffee pero walang batas sa fries? Everyone knows, I mean, food technologists know that fries would actually contain way more acrylamide coffee. So pagka may mga ganun tanong, hindi na science yung usapan doon, di ba? Then you think about other things. Okay, and then ochratoxin A is a popular toxin in coffee. Fortunately, Philippines, walang nagmo-monitor kaya wala tayong alam kung may ochratoxin yung coffee. What you don't know doesn't kill you, right?
True.
Pero merong mga anecdote naman ng mga studies. Jonathan Barcelo is a good friend of mine. Small world because when I met Jonathan, that's when I learned na former student ko is his wife pala. But Jonathan is probably the foremost scientist on ochratoxin, and he's based in St. Louis University sa Baguio. Okay? Na ito yung study na ginawa niya na na-publish sa Journal ng Food Additives and Contaminants. Fortunately, dun sa study niya, at least sa Cordillera region, lumalabas na hindi naman ganun kataas, hindi ganun ka-harmful pa yung level ng ochratoxin. But we can talk about details of this, some interesting stuff from this study later on, kasi it will also give you an idea what parts of the coffee cherry to avoid. Kasi ngayon, alam natin hindi lang yung bean yung ginagamit natin, di ba? So this actually is the reason why I avoid drinking some coffee cherry-based beverage. Wala pang study to, pero again, I mean, walang definitive na study, pero meron ng hint from the study of Jonathan. Ako, syempre, pagka meron na akong konting clue, doon na pupunta na ako doon sa side ng prudence. So, hanggat walang definitive na study, hanggat suspecha ko na mataas yung ochratoxin doon sa part na yon ng cherry, I'm not going to drink that. All right. In other countries, cause for concern yan. Kaya sa Pilipinas, unfortunately, hindi nga tayo masyadong science savvy kasi na bansa. So, hindi masyadong inaaral. Please remind me, John, kung anong minutes, ha?
Yeah, sige lang. I'll let you know, Doc. Don't worry.
So, at this point, how many minutes do I have? Para lang matansya ko yung pace ko.
You still have 45 minutes.
Grabe, 45? Kala ko naman.
Hindi, joke lang.
Jymer.
Hati kayo.
Ganun kahaba.
Hindi, joke lang.
Hati naman tayo, Doc. Joke naman, Doc. Parang kwentuhan lang to, Doc.
Hello? Okay.
Yan lang tayo, guys.
Kala ko parang klase na to. Okay. So, may mga studies na global naman. And again, I'll leave it up to you to find these journals. And then, ugaliin ninyong I don't know how many are in this webinar right now.
We are 31. Minus you, 30.
Ayan. Doon sa 30 sa inyo, at least magandang start yan. There would be 30 coffee professionals or coffee aficionados who would now be journal article readers. Please ugaliin lang ninyo yan. Ano? Kung nahihirapan kayong basahin, okay lang. Ako rin naman. Pero kung gusto niyo magtanong, you can chat with me and then alam naman ni Jymer yan. Alam din naman ni na pangalan nito. Sino yung sino yung champion ninyo sa Mindanao, Jymer?
Sino siya? Si Sir Joel?
Hindi,
Si Allen. Ito sa Allen.
Allen Bersero.
Yeah, Allen Bersero, yeah.
Grabe, Alzheimer's. Yeah. si Allen is like that, ano. And he asks a lot of questions. And
Questions, yes.
if you wanna know how important science, etong dalawang tao na to, actually, si Jymer tsaka si Allen yung best example ng mga they actually devour a lot of science literature, science articles. And so should you. Okay? So sa ibang bansa, merong mga instances na nagiging concern siya. Sa atin, hindi nagiging concern kasi walang may alam, walang nagsusukat. And I mentioned this because Jonathan's study is, for all intents and purposes, anecdotal. While in fact, since we're talking about health here, isn't it supposed to be policy? So again, the reason I'm telling you this, guys, is it's another perspective kasi as coffee professionals and coffee aficionados, dapat may pakialam din tayo sa policy. You drink coffee, who's measuring the ochratoxin level there? No one. Okay. Yan. According to the findings, isa sa mga magagandang paraan to remove ochratoxin is gamma radiation, which is going to be debatable for people who hate the word radiation when it comes to food. And then ozone and ultrasound, baka milder level, ayaw din ng mga tao yan kasi they don't like people sciencing their food, no? Gusto nila organic. And that's another thing we want to talk about later, no? Okay? So yan, as far as the health aspect is concerned, if you have questions, there's a lot of literature about components of coffee that have health implications. No? Of course, pinaka-popular na dyan yung caffeine. Kung medyo duda kayo sa pinagtatanungan ninyo, maraming literature, magbasa kayo ng mga journals and then ask the scientists what those journal articles mean if you don't understand them. Okay? I really find it weird kasi I find it weird na yung parang medyo paradoxical kasi, contradicting dito sa atin. Kung kailan naman nagkaroon ng internet, nung time namin wala. Well, hindi pa ganun sa Pinas. Kung kailan may internet, abundant at saka available, at saka accessible yung information. Pero oddly, people know less or understand less. You go around the Philippines, you'll actually hear people saying the same or sharing the same myths and beliefs in coffee na every scientist would want to destroy. So, and that's the reason why, again, I thank John for this opportunity kasi this is going to add 30 more individuals who would now start thinking, okay, let's be more skeptical and let's read science articles. Let's talk to scientists. Let's grill the scientists or the academics. No? Okay? Now, on the sexy part, you should also know that the current the incumbent world barista champion Julian John of South Korea built her, kung hindi nyo pa napapanood yung routine niya na ginawa niya sa competition na yon, it was actually built around carbohydrates, no? So again, di ko di-discuss sa inyo yan. Mahahanap ninyo sa YouTube yan. Panoorin niyo yung buong 15-minute routine ni Julian John. And then, malalaman ninyo, it was all about this. She wanted to explore and more efficiently obtain and even recover some of the flavors that are in the spent coffee grounds na. So umabot siya dun sa point na yung spent coffee grounds, pina-breakdown pa niya through enzymes so that some of the carbohydrates there that are insoluble will now suddenly become soluble, which she is going to reincorporate into her beverage and is going to taste better daw. Well, I think it did kasi it got the nod of the judges. But what is interesting in Juyeon John's routine are two things. Number one, she doesn't speak English. So the entire 15 minutes, she memorized. And if you watch that video, she delivered it so well.
Wow.
Akala mo, English yung, akala mo, fluent siya sa English. She was like that.
Galing.
And what's going to make it even amazing is she memorized speaking it in a way that it's like in her conversational language. But she delivered the science pa in English. Which brings me to the second point, amazing point about this routine. She didn't do that alone. She's not a chemist, no? So that should be food for thought for you guys. She definitely worked with scientists on this one. Actually, sinabi niya yatang naki-work siya with a university scientist. Okay? Hindi ko sinasabing makipag-work kayo sa akin. Ang dami dyan ng mga scientists, no? Pero it's not unusual naman for me. Pero okay lang. I mean, hindi ko sinasabing ayoko, ha? Pero marami dyan mga scientists. Pili kayo ng mas malapit sa inyo kasi syempre kung taga Cagayan de Oro kayo or taga Davao kayo, mas maganda kung nasa province ninyo, sa area ninyo yung academic or yung scientist, syempre, para makapag-experiment kayo. But this is not new to me kasi marami namang lumaban na doon sa mga competitions dito na I was able to collaborate with naman. And it's fun for me kasi to tell you honestly, medyo starstruck ako nung mga unang years. Baliktad eh. Actually, starstruck talaga ako. I'm being very honest here. Kasi yung mga nakakatrabaho ko sa laboratory, we're barista champions. Parang gagawa ako ng experiment for someone who's going to compete in the barista championship. Ganun. So, masaya. Kasi hindi boring yung laboratory work. There was even a year where I worked in the lab with 3 competitors. All 3 of them entered the finals. And they only learned that they all worked in my lab after the competitions. Siyempre, hindi naman ako magsasabi ng ganito yung ginawa ni ganito doon sa kabila. No? Kasi wala namang point eh. Okay. Wala namang, hindi naman ako babayaran ng mga yan, mga barista, hindi naman ako babayaran yung mga yan for, pag mamananalo. All right. So yan. Again, it's you want to learn more about carbohydrates, we can talk at length about carbohydrates in the future, probably in another episode, because this is also one of the things that I've been working on in the lab. Hindi ko nasabi sa inyo kanina, I worked in the lab at UC Davis. I'm supposed to be there this year kaso nagkaroon ng pandemic. So I might probably go there once things clear. Babalik ako doon definitely soonest. No? So to work on basically carbohydrates and then some other projects with the UC Davis Coffee Center. So yan. Kung hindi nyo alam yung UC Davis Coffee Center or UC Davis, yan yung University of California sa Davis. Yan yung, well, basically, sikat na sila ngayon because of coffee, because of the coffee center. Okay. What's in every cup? Importante malaman ninyo na lahat ng mga flavors lahat ng mga compounds doon sa coffee ninyo, and this is just a partial list. Okay? You don't have to memorize this, guys. There's no quiz after this. Actually came from uh, all of these ingredients in the coffee bean prior to roasting. Okay? So what you're looking at right now is the composition of Arabica and Canephora, aka Robusta, aka Conilon. Okay? Uh, ito yung mga major components ng green coffee. Alright? And from here, you will actually end up getting all of these. Okay? And again, this is just a partial list because there are hundreds of compounds in coffee the moment that you roast this. Okay? Pag ni-roast mo na yung coffee, okay, you have all sorts of chemical reactions going on. Of course, the most popular of them all is the Maillard reaction. Okay, ito. Which is the reaction that produces diketones and pyrazines, which are the ones responsible for the characteristic coffee caramel flavor. Okay? But all of the other flavors are attributed to compounds coming from a whole gamut of other reactions. Okay? Now, if you are sort of intimidated by this chart, again, don't be, kasi andito naman ako, pwede ko kayong, I can give you a crash course on organic chemistry pag kailangan ninyo. But organic chemistry is not really, I mean, learning the language of organic chemistry is relatively easy actually, kasi pag may mga liberal arts classes nga ako, inuuna ko kagad yung organic chem kasi sabi ko sa kanila, there are more than 13 million organic compounds versus about 120,000 inorganic compounds. Organic compounds far outnumber inorganic compounds, which means that by sheer number alone, mas mataas yung probability na may encounter natin yung organic compounds kaysa hindi. And in reality, it is. Etong shirt na suot ko ngayon, it's combination of organic compounds, polyester, cotton. My skin is organic, proteins. Okay? The plastic casing of this monitor, that camera, polypropylene, some high density polyethylene. Those are organic compounds. Okay? So, kung interesado kayo ng introduction to organic chemistry for coffee aficionados, okay lang sa akin yan. Kasi the more chemistry literate we are, the better it would be for the coffee industry. And I think also the better it would be for us as a nation. Kaya guys, sa 2022, tandaan niyo. Joke lang. Joke lang. Wala. But you know, it's kidding aside, I think science literacy is something that, if I don't know if you guys notice it, but we're not critical thinkers, no. We mabilis. Let's not go there, but science as a thought process is something that we are not much into, diba? And I think that's the reason why we have poor decision making skills. Okay, so ito na yung roasted. Actually, wala naman kayong pakialam dito. Pag tinignan naman nyo itong slide na to, tapos ito yung green, tapos ni-roast, tapos ito yung magiging resulta niya, makikita naman ninyo, halos lahat naman dyan bumagsak. Except yung mga sucrose, reducing sugars, kasi sila yung mga byproducts ng breakdown ng mga mas malalaking carbohydrates. But for most of them, basically everything goes down. Even the proteins, the amino acids are practically wiped out after roasting. But that's because all of these compounds are now converted into these very, very nice compounds that basically give us the overall flavor of coffee. Now, why do you need to know this thing? Kasi dito sa chart na to, pag tinignan ninyo, sa baba, nakalagay dyan, content varies according to cultivar, agriculture practice, climate, soil composition, and methods of analysis. Para lang sabihin sa inyo, just to point out na ang dami-daming variables masyado. So if you're really trying to toy or play around with the flavor of coffee, baka masiraan kayo ng bayat, no? It's kasi ang daming ang dami ng variables. I don't for practical reasons, I don't think you're going to take down all of this information when you buy your green coffee, your green GCB, no? Hindi ka pupunta doon sa farm, tatanungin mo yung farmer na anong cultivar nito, paano ninyo pinrocess to. Patingin nga nung yung logbook ninyo, anong ginawa ninyo magmula nung nag-pruning kayo bago na mulaklak, at ano ginawa ninyo nung namunga hanggang baka nga hindi pa nila ginawa yun. But if you really wanna go full science, at gusto nyo masiraan ng bet, banatan nyo lahat ito. But just to tell you that all of this actually affect the components of green coffee, which in return, as a result, will also lead to a variation in the compounds present in the final cup. Okay? Yan. Tapos sama pa natin yung roasting degree. Yan. Kaya importante yung, actually, more and more roasters now are turning to science na rin, kasi roasting is where you can mess up everything. sa brewing, medyo fine tuning diyan, di ba? You can still mess it up, no? But if you have really good beans, it's going to be much more forgiving for some margin of error for brewing. But if the roaster commits a mistake, mas malaki yung implication nando sa final cup. Actually, lahat naman yan may implication, yung farmer din. Yan. Pero kung nakatigim na kayo ng maraming mga coffee, ma-notice ninyo, kasi marami na ring roasters dito sa Pilipinas na they get the same beans from the producers, na kinukuhanan din ng mga mas kilalang internationally known na mga roasters. Pero pag tinikman niyo side by side yung coffee nila, bakit nagagawa ng mga roasters ito doon sa ibang bansa?
Yeah.
Pero ngayon, dumadami na dito sa Pilipinas yung ganon. Kasi nga, natututo na talaga rin yung madami. I mean, it's already happening actually. Marami ng magagaling na roasters dito. And it's really noticeable kasi partida na yon yung agriculture practice dito, tsaka yung mga varieties ng coffee dito, hindi pa nga yung mga malulupit eh. But then you get really good coffee pa rin. No? So, ibig sabihin nun, talent-wise, mahusay na rin yung mga tao dito. Tsaka yun nga, maliit na yung mundo. You have international luminaries doing webinars, doing lessons, coming over to the Philippines, giving tutorials, plus may YouTube pa. So, madaling matuto na yung mga tao. Okay, this one, medyo gas-gas na to. Alam nyo na yata lahat ito eh, no? Pagdating sa brewing, siyempre yung roaster, importante yan. Ano? Siya yung, feeling ko, isa sa mga pinakamalaking pwedeng sumira talaga ng potential ng coffee. Siya rin yung magpapalabas ng flavor. Pero, of course, that would be supplemented by good brewing. And good brewing relies on many factors, but these are just textbook stuff. Hindi natin i-memorize to kasi I'm more particular about the science as a thought process rather than explaining to you each one of this kasi may mga YouTube videos na to, no? So, ano-ano yung mga factors na yon? Bean, temperature, brewing ratio, grind size, water hardness, and then several others na depends on the reference that you're looking at. Agitation, di ba? Madami pa yan, no? Pero basically, if you brew more, the more you brew coffee, the more you will actually be able to discover all of these factors yourself. Pero maganda rin na nabasa na ninyo. Okay? Yung Pilipinas, do we have to go here? Yung Pilipinas is one of very few countries, less than a handful of countries that can produce viable amounts of the 4 commercially viable species, no? Types of coffee. Arabica, Robusta, Liberica, and Excelsa. Pero yung market, of course, hindi naman masyado sa Liberica at sa Excelsa. Pero ngayon medyo sumisikat ito kasi lalo na ngayong pandemic, everyone's now trying to sell Barako. So biglang sumikat no? Kasi naging scarce yung produkto. So everyone's now selling everything that they can sell. And it's actually good kasi I know some communities who have been having a hard time selling their coffee before, like a few years ago. And then now they actually run out of stock. Kasi nga, well, number one, nag-improve din naman talaga yung quality na nila and quantity ng production. But also the demand has increased by a lot as well. Marami ng mga Pinoy ngayon yung parang gusto ko yung Barako, gusto ko yung authentic na Barako. The word authentic is something that we'll talk about later. Okay? Temperatures. Ano ba? Well, this is the chart here is shows us the concentration of 3 substances, 3 components of coffee para lang may idea na tayo na pag iniba niyo yung temperature, mag-iiba yung concentration ng compound na yan dun sa kape. Simple as that. And we're just talking about 3 compounds here. So, for medyo malaki lang yung range, from 70 to 94. But 94 to 95 to 96, hindi masyadong malaki. But if certain compounds have a high impact as far as perception is concerned, small changes in their concentration would greatly already will already affect greatly yung perceived na flavor ninyo. Which basically means one thing: change the temperature, the profile, the flavor profile of your coffee is going to change as well. Okay? Ano bang note ang pwede ko pang sabihin dito? Well, no one brews at 100 degrees naman.
Hey, Doc, you only have 10 minutes left.
Okay, bigla na lang 10, ano? Teka.
Sige lang, Doc. No pressure, Doc.
The reason why you need to learn science, guys, you have to have an appreciation of science kasi it also prevents you from being in an embarrassing situation. Let me give an example. So I heard that someone was lecturing about brewing, and then during the open forum, tinanong, do you brew at 100 degrees Celsius? Ang sagot, nope. Well, that's a good answer, no. But why? This is what makes it interesting. Well, I don't brew at 100 degrees Celsius because it's going to scald my tongue or your tongue. Doon medyo bumagsak yung sagot kasi you try brewing at 94, you'll probably still scald your tongue. You brew at 80, mapapasok ka pa rin. Mga 70 yata magsisimula kang sa 70 magsisimula ka mapasok. So tama yung sagot, mali yung explanation. So guys, understand the science, no, kasi you don't want to be brought to an embarrassing situation, no? Especially if you do your own lecture na rin. And it's fine, no? If you don't know the answer, say you don't know. It's okay. I say that a lot. Uh,
Actually, Doc, yung one owner here, yung I don't know if you met Sir Harley, yung sa H proper.
I
He
haven't
was
met him, but I've been there. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. 100 degrees. H proper work commence 100 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yung sa kanila. It works for them but not for me.
Baka some people lang.
Yeah.
Talented people works with 100 degrees.
Well,
Yeah.
again, kanya-kanyang trip yan. Kasi yung pag nag-brew kayo old-fashioned, yung mga percolator, ano yun eh, boiling point yun eh.
Yeah.
Actually, hindi lang boiling point. Boiling point times n number of times. Kasi pabalik-balik lang yun. So, ilang beses pinakuluan.
Yeah.
Eh kung masarap para sa yun, walang basagan ng trip, di ba?
Tama.
But what we're saying here is that, science tells us that if you want to optimize yung mga flavor compounds, yung potential, yung mga delicate flavors ng coffee, you don't brew it all the way there because at that temperature, you will actually decompose all of those delicate compounds, di ba? But preference is another thing. Kung gusto mo pa rin talaga yung ganun, wala naman ako magagawa doon. Okay? Bibilisan ko na dito. Ito yung brew chart na wag na ninyong gagamitin to kasi ano na to. Kaya ako lang pinapakita sa inyo to kasi tigilan nyo na yung paggamit nito dahil may bago ng brew chart na ilalabas yung UC Davis Coffee Center and this one is obsolete.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Actually, makikita mo naman eh, di ba nakalagay dito, ideal, optimum balance.
Optimum balance.
You don't say the word ideal in a chart that went to be scientific. Ang magsasabi ng ideal yung uminom. Hindi ikaw. But anyway, there's a new brew control chart that's going to come out. Nirelease na nga yata ng UC Davis. Okay, particle size distribution. We can talk a lot about this later on kasi isa to sa mga tinututukan ng mga coffee aficionados. Siyempre, pag nag-uusap sila, mas maganda grinder ko kaysa sa grinder mo. Mas maganda yung pagka-grind ko kaysa sa pagka-grind
Kino
mo.
versus komandante.
Ayan, yung mga ganyan. Ang labanan niyan, particle size distribution yung usapan nila. But it's really funny because we can talk about this later on, just to keep myself dun sa time frame na allotted sa akin. But this one, I've had, I think, enough conversations with people and then mga kwento rin sa akin for us to be able to have a nice discussion about particle size distribution. Yeah. May ginawa rin kami experiment dito with the coffee professionals dito sa NCR na nakakatawa. Mamaya ko na rin lang ikukwento. Okay. Another interesting science thing about coffee is water.
Yeah.
Now, ito nung lumabas itong paper na to, everyone in the coffee industry started making their own water. Kasi ang sinasabi nitong article na to, pagka mas mataas yung magnesium tsaka calcium content ng kape mo, nung tubig mo, mas madami kang ma-extract na compounds. Well, number one, etong paper na to, itong study na to, is a computational study. So, hindi siya actual na brewing. It was a computer simulated. Kinakalculate yung mga binding energies ng cations at saka ng mga flavor compounds. Pero anyway, alam mo naman mga tao, jump to conclusion kaagad sila. Pataasan sila ng mga water hardness. Merong mga barista na muntik na akong masamid kasi pinatikim ako ng kape na mga nasa 250, 275 ppm na yung kanilang water hardness, and it's scary, no? When you just let people do stuff that they do not completely understand. Okay? But what is interesting about this paper is that Chris Hendon is a chemist, and then the other two, of course, are coffee professionals. We should have more of this in the Philippines. So if you have any ideas, work with someone in the academe and carry out experiments so that you can publish, so that whatever you find out is going to be information that's useful, no? Para mawala na, mabawasan na yung mga maling informations about coffees. Alright, eto hindi na para sa inyo to, pero para sa mga newbies ito sa coffee. Kasi pag ipini-explain ko sa kanila yung mga science, yung mga factors, ang general reaction nila, bakit masyadong komplikado yung paggawa ng coffee? Siyempre, sinasabi ko sa kanila, kaya naman ganon kasi you want to make sure that you're able to optimally extract all of those delicate flavors in coffee, which actually makes them very valuable and very expensive and hopefully beneficial to the people in the value chain, including the farmers. Okay? So, well, should I share this with you? Etong study na ginawa ng mga Duke University researchers, na publish ito noong 2016, ginamit ng DTI ito para sa policy brief nila. According to the Duke University researchers, isa sa mga one of the challenges that we need to address is this: gaps in collection and distribution of research and technical knowledge. Kulang na kulang tayo. Bakit? Kasi no one's aware about, no one's taking the science to the level that it should be understood. And let me say it for the nth time. Science is a process, no? It is not a collection of trivial information that you can just throw out there to wow people. It's actually a process where you continue acquiring, generating new knowledge, and even challenging existing ones. And your roles as coffee professionals and aficionados is to take an active part in the realization of this generation of new knowledge. Right? Kaya naman natin, malilikot ang utak ng mga Pilipino. I'll give you some example. Yan, ito yung, tatapusin ko muna dito. Bigyan ko kanina sa example. So, tuwing nag-grind kami ng coffee, nung time na lumabas nung time na ginawa namin, kasi meron kami mga coffee science meetup noon nung hindi pa kami masyadong busy. Napupuna namin, tapos mini-measure ko yung particle size distribution ng coffee. Napupuna namin na palaging bimodal yung particle size distribution. Ito yung itsura ng particle size analyzer. Okay? Ito yung actual na unit na ginagamit namin. And this is what a particle size distribution looks like. Ngayon, na-realize namin na hindi palagi. Depende pa. Na tinanong yung question na yon, walang nakakaalam ng sagot. Bakit siya bimodal? And then, immediately, some person with a physics background threw up a hypothesis na hindi kaya dahil dun sa coffee bean merong embryo tapos merong peak na to. So nagtanong-tanong kami sa iba't ibang mga kilalang tao sa coffee industry dito. Walang makasagot ng tanong na yon. So sabi namin, sige, gawin na nga natin eksperimento. So sa sobrang curious namin, inassign ko to na undergraduate thesis sa isa kong estudyante. Alam nyo, ginawa ng estudyante ko na yon? One by one, hinati niya yung coffee bean para i-separate yung part na may embryo at saka yung walang embryo. Tapos, ginrind namin, tapos tinignan namin siyempre, tinignan pa namin yung SEM. Well, irrelevant na to. Basta ito yung itsura nung nung embryo at saka nung hindi embryo. Mas smooth yung embryo na part. Nakikita nyo tong graph na to? Ay, mali. I'll show you this one. Okay? See this? This is the embryo. The blue, the maroonish is the whole bean, and the red one, the part without the embryo. Now check out the particle size distribution. Lahat sila bimodal, no? So ibig sabihin yan, hindi dahil doon sa embryo yung maliit na peak na yun. Because if it were because of that, then the blue one would have just been this one. So it's because of the grinder. But, you know, I gave you this example. I told you this story kasi pinapatulan namin lahat ng tanong ng mga taga-coffee industry. So, kung gusto niyo malaman na, hindi, yung embryo yan eh. Di ginawa namin. So, eto, thesis ng estudyante ko to. Medyo disappointing on his part kasi akala niya magkakaroon na siya, magiging international celebrity na siya eh. Kasi, you know, back in the day, ang kwentuhan namin ng estudyante ko na yon, sabi ko, Franz, pag eto, dahil dun sa embryo, sikat ka na. Kasi sigurado ko, lahat ng mga susunod na barista competition, lahat hahatiin yung bean nila dun sa, ihiwalay nila yung embryo at saka yung, hindi ganon. The grinders will grind the way they grind no matter what you put in them. Saklap, no? Yun yung undergraduate thesis niya. But no one knew the answer anyway, so we still did it. Okay? Marami pa akong ikukwento sa inyo. Authenticity, mamaya na lang sa open forum siguro. Just to give you an example nga na lahat ng issue sa coffee industry na pwede namin patulan, pinapatulan namin. So, nung nagkaroon ng competition sa coffee, tapos may naging curious yung mga tao, paano ba natin malalaman na doon talaga sa farm na yun nang galing yung kape na yun? Well, we did a stable isotope analysis. Okay? Para malaman namin kung saan galing yung kape na yan. In-adapt na rin ito, actually, in-adapt ito pati ng Cacao Council. Kasi nung nagbigay kami pinresent namin itong results na to, kalahati nga sa audience, mga taga-cacao industry. So nung nagkaroon ng cacao competition, pinagawa na rin nila ng stable isotope analysis. Okay, skip the... Ayan, you know, Jonathan was my first collaborator sa coffee. So meron kaming hindi pala first. Ito yung isang interesting lang na kwento kasi nung lumaban siya sa national championships, ang tanong niya, ano ang lasa ng coffee? What compounds do I have after grinding? 5 minutes after grinding, 10 minutes after grinding. So, inanalyze namin yung mga compounds na yan and then that allowed him to figure out which ones ang gagamitin niya sa espresso, alin yung gagamitin niya sa milk bev, at alin yung gagamitin niya sa signature drink. And of course, ako naman, ginamit ko yung nalalaman ko from articles that I also read from other scientists like this awesome guy. Lodi ko yan, Lodi. Okay. So, I think I'll try to end there. Marami pang slides ito, pero I think I'll cut it with this slide.
Pwede ba tayo magkaroon ng part 2 next week? Will that be okay with you? Kasi,
okay lang.
Okay ba? Kasi sobrang broad kasi and very interesting lahat ng slides. So I think mukhang majority naman sa amin gusto ng part 2. Will that be okay, guys? Part 2 tayo next Saturday. Okay.
Kaya nga broad strokes lang ito.
Nabitin ako. Yan, sige. Go for part 2 tayo. Okay,
yeah, so this is an example of a study that we did, no? Na mga taga coffee industry to, si Laika sa BCA yan. This was published in Chimica. Anyway, so yun, sige. Mamaya sa open forum na lang. Hindi ko nga kasi alam kung gusto nyong tanungin eh. Pero throw questions, no?
Ayan, very interesting yung slides and yeah, mukhang G naman sila for part 2. And yes, sige, iset na natin yan with Doc Mel ulit. Doc, same day, Saturday, 8 p.m. Sounds good?
Pwede mo mas maaga.
Pwede, mga 10 a.m. ng umaga, pwede ba yun?
10 okay lang yung mas maaga, mas okay sa akin kasi pag Sunday kasi pumupunta ako dun sa sa weekend market na maaga.
Okay. Gets.
Niiwasan ko kasi yung crowd. So I need to wake up early pag Sundays.
Okay. Sige, Doc. I-set natin yan. Pwede naman mag-stream ng mas early. That will do for us.
Sige.
Okay. So,
Sige
game guys. Q&A tayo.
Okay. Take it away, Jymer.
Q&A. Type in your questions for Doc Mel first. Kung meron kayong mga questions before we proceed to Jymer's presentation. Go lang, guys.
Takot magtanong siguro, Doc. Na-intimidate sa science. Actually, share ko lang yung mga experiences. Actually, yung what it helped me from yung application per se, kasi I find science interesting. Estudyante pa ako. So, actually, I have this parang instinct ko na to be curious, to tinker in a lot of things. So, having delved into coffee, so I kind of like, what makes this, parang new question is always why. Why? It's kind of like living with a curious mind. So, from, for example, yung when I started yung classes ko sa brewing or yung mga coffee workshops, it kind of like led to me be interested na, okay, then why is it like this? And then how do I make it better? Kind of like it strikes me if it's more like it involves like experimenting. So if I do this, would it be lead to this? And then sometimes it doesn't give you the best answers, and then okay, back to the drawing board, back to square one. So where do I go next? It's kind of like that. So there are a lot of things. I also have to thank Doc Mel. It's kind of like yung like invigorate yung curiosity ko much more into to be go to the knowledge, yung understanding na knowledge of yung sa science and asking a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yung mga questions dito okay. Gutin ko to
Let's start first with Chester.
Calabarzon, well, yeah, thank you thank you for the thank you. Uy, andito pala si Nathaniel Ongsuan. Ay, Nathaniel.
Guest ko yun last week, Doc.
Hello, Doc.
Yun. Shout out kay Nathaniel. Nathan. Kasanay na ako, ganito na ako mag-lecture kasi nababato na ako sa mga klase ko.
Ayun, Doc.
Chester, how far have you gone into research? Sorry.
Ayan, yung kay Chester.
Ako na rin mabasa ng tanong.
Sige, go. Go ahead, Doc.
How far have you gone into research in coffee in particular? Have you tried exploring on the agriculture side of coffee? Buong value chain, Chester, kasi yun nga yung final, yung flavor ng coffee is the result of the entire process, no, from cultivation all the way to brewing, even all the way to drinking. So umabot na talaga ako dun sa agriculture na side na rin. And that's the reason why we have been working with some communities and other schools as well. Ang pinakasuki ko actually yung samahang magkakapisali pa sina Arnold kasi yan hindi ako agriculturist, pero malalim kasi the thing with chemistry kasi is you understand the fundamental substances na di ba? So it's relatively easy for me to understand science journals ng ibang fields kasi it's 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 my language already. So ang kailangan ko na lang talaga pupunta lang ako dun sa field at sabihin na eto gawin mo. Kasi nga parang yun yung nabasa ko eh. Diba? And true enough, gumagana naman. So how far have I gone in church? Malawak, pinakailaman na lahat yan. Kaya nga nabuo yung elective course sa Lasal na multidisciplinary kasi pati yung governance, pati yung cultural aspect, meron na kaming, kasi kailangan ko manghawa ng mga faculty members sa ibang departments eh. So kailangan malaman ko kung anong aspeto ng coffee yung interesting sa kanila. So it turns out, lahat meron eh. Yung taga-Filipino department, meron sa kanilang nagkataon pala na may katrabaho for the last 2 decades na tribo na nagpo-produce ng coffee. And this is a tribe that's pretty secluded or isolated. So there's that thing. And to me, it's very important kasi ipiniliwanag sa akin na yung role ng mga IPs, kung saan merong mga IPs, doon na lang merong forests na may biodiversity. So you know the role of, nai-imagine ba ninyo kung paano na kami mag-isip ng coffee ngayon? Hindi lang flavor yung utak namin ngayon eh. Kasi you think of the big picture palagi o para pag sinabi sa akin na Jamel, okay ba yung mag-freeze dry tayo ng ano? Marami kasi tao ganun, yung gusto nila yung cool na aspect. Pwede ba naming i-liquid nitrogen yung coffee para pwede kaming gumawa ng ano? Yeah, we can do that. Pero immediately naiisip ko yung, okay, how is it going to affect the environment? Ano yung magiging economic cost niya? Ano yung magiging return niya? Siyempre, hindi ako expert doon. Pero iniisip ko na kagad yun. Iniisip ko na kagad sinong faculty member nung aling department ng aling college yung pupuntahan ko para dito. Ganyan yung structure na ngayon sa Lasal. Ange Wong, free ba yung mga journals? Maraming magagandang journals, hindi free. Pero kung may kailangan kang journal article, sabihin mo sa akin, papadalhan kita.
Nice.
Okay. Maraming ganyan. Yan, sina Jymer, sina Allen, pagka may gusto ipa-download na paper, dina-download ko naman, pinapadala ko sa kanila. Kasi may mga subscriptions kasi yung school. And of course, we're willing to share that kasi it's also part of my knowledge generation. Magiging interesado ako doon. Kasi alam ba, pag may pina-download si Jymer sa akin, ita-download ko yun hindi lang dahil gustong basahin ni Jymer, kundi dahil curious na rin ako kung bakit gustong basahin ni Jymer. Di ba?
Makes sense.
Johan, yung mga sikat na coffee shops like Starbucks, nagre-research din ba yung mga ganyan? Oo, nagre-research yung mga yan. Pero, well, definitely, nagre-research yan. Ang Nestle, nagre-research yan. Matindi yan. George Pastor, as a newbie to the science of coffee, what should I look out for when it comes to determining the quality of beans? Hindi ako Q grader, pero lumaki na rin ako sa YouTube eh. Makakakita ka ng i-google mo na lang, hanapin mo sa YouTube grading green coffee beans. Tapos makikita mo doon yung criteria kung paano nila gine-grade yung coffee, and that would be good. Okay. True ba yung 0 calories yung black coffee? Practically zero, Ange. Practically zero. It's not gonna give you anything that's of course it has sugars, but the amount that it contains is really not much to it's not anywhere near a soda. Sarina, may nabasa ako na mas acidic ang Arabica pero mas mataas ang CGA ng Robusta. Okay, magandang usapan ito. Pag sinabi mong acidic, okay, are you referring to the perceived acidity or yung sourness, or are you referring to the pH? Kasi yung pH is the measure of, chemically, it's the measure of how much high But that doesn't necessarily maasim mo hindi yung ano. Yung iba rin yung perception naman nung mo. So, can you clarify, Zarina, what acidity are you referring to? Is it the pH or the perceived acidity or sourness?
Okay.
Johan, ano pong sagot doon sa tanong kanina? Bakit hindi 100 degrees yung tubig na pambrew? Well, hindi naman sa hindi. Pero the prescribed temperature, brewing temperature range of SCA, which of course we do not follow din naman. I mean, all the time. Kasi nga, it's really up to you. But generally, the higher the temperature, obviously, the more degradation reactions happen. And if you have very delicate compounds at higher temperatures, you will lose them. So if you want to keep them, prevent those high temperatures, but of course, it still has to be high enough in order to extract them. So, well, according to research, which is what SCA based on, 93, 96 is what gives you that. Although I know people who brew at 90, 89, even 88. And if you like 88 for a particular coffee that you have, edi okay. Diba? Generally, 100, you don't push it to that point kasi ano eh. But again, it's perception eh. Kung mas masarap sa iyo yung pinakuluan talaga na kape, go ahead. But it's a different story if you're going to tell me that it has more of the flavor na intact, because a lot of those would have actually been gone at that temperature. Di ba? Hindi mo pa nga binobrew. Di ba yung coffee grounds mo pa nga lang nakalagay sa pakete, you wanna keep it at 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, mga ganong temperature. Beans pa lang, coffee beans pa lang yun, di ba? So, that's because your coffee is going to deteriorate even at temperatures like 25, 30, 35. So, it only means one thing. Higher temperature, more deterioration ng flavors in general. So, bakit hindi 100? Kasi generally, the higher the temperature, more losses in flavors. Pero kung preference ang pag-uusapan, kung gusto mong panindigan na masarap yung 100, okay. But just don't force me din na masarap yung 100. Parang ganon. Hanson, how can we explore or experiment more with the chemistry of coffee if we're starting from home? It starts from observation. So if you're very curious and you notice something, tanong mo ako, tapos sasabihin ko sa iyo if it's worth doing an experiment on. Usually, ganun yung ginagawa namin. Most of the experiments that I do, mga thesis ng mga estudyante ko, galing yan sa mga taga-industry. And all of those questions happen because they just realized it when they were brewing or when they were roasting or when they were cultivating it. So how can you explore? Focus on what you're doing, pay closer attention, be intuitive, and have a skeptical mindset, because that will lead you to asking questions, and questions will lead you to experiments. JV, is there a desirable compound that we want to maximally extract? Wala. Because the word desirable is preferential, JV. So some people like citrusy notes, some people like sweet notes, some people like nutty notes. So desirable will be preferential. Pero kung gusto mo yung mas nutty, you know how to play around with the parameters during brewing so that you go on the more nutty side if that is a potential of the bean. Kung gusto mong bawasan yung acid, sour na notes, you know how to play around with that as well sa parameters. No? So, that probably somehow indirectly answers your question. If you have a preference for a particular flavor profile and you know how the parameters affect that, then adjust the parameters. Yan, si Nathan at saka si Jymer, pwede turuan niya ng mga how to Yun yung episode ni Nathan, 'di ba, dati?
Yeah, last
Yeah,
week.
Last week. Oh, yun.
last week. Mm.
So, paano kung ayaw ko yung lumabas yung asim? Yun yung pinaglalaroan nila. Chester, Doc, aabot ka ba sa point na gagawa ka ng controlled environment just for the sake of coffee o medyo mataas ka pa sa rabbit hole? Hindi ako pupunta doon. I'll be honest with you guys. My role in the coffee initiative of Lasal is about to finish. Hindi. I mean, sorry. Ano kasi, parang sa politics yan yung dapat meron kang term of office. So now, meron akong inilatag for myself na gagawin ko for the coffee initiative ng Lasal. But then after that, I'll make sure that someone else will be there. But I'll be doing the stuff that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do because I was busy setting up this thing. So, gagawa ako ng controlled environment. Baka hindi kasi ano yan hindi sustainable yung ganun . So, kung hindi siya sustainable, di rin siya feasible, there's no point. Well, it's going to be an exciting science. Actually, ginagawa yan nung isa doon sa mga understudy ko ngayon. Yun, sobrang nerd nun. Yung bahay niya, meron siyang artificial na nano farm na isa sa mga experiments niya, pinapailawan niya ng iba't ibang wavelengths ng ilaw.
Ng radiation.
Yung puno para ma-stimulate na mamulaklak early than it should. Siya ginagawa niya, ako hindi ko gagawin yun. Pero katuwaan lang yun. It's a cool experiment, pero siya rin naman, alam naman niya hindi yan sustainable. You're not going to do a 1 hectare, 2 hectare farm na sarado na controlled mo yung conditions. No? Otherwise, if you do that, magkano kaya yung kape na lalabas doon? Grabe, daming tanong. Jay Iglesia, have you tried to recommend mixing coffee with alcoholic beverages? Ano yung dapat iwasan? Unfortunately, Mr. or Miss Iglesia, I'm allergic to alcohol. So,
wow.
Oo. Pag sumasali ako sa pulutan lang ako well, I drink a little, but I'm not to the level. Mababa talaga yung tolerance ko. Parang isang bote ng beer, mahihingan niya ako ng pera. Chester, lastly, ano ba Chester? Request naman kung results ng yung sa Civet Coffee. Ang masasabi ko lang sa Civet, guys, kung gusto niyo sige lang. Pero what we found out in our yung thesis ng mga undergrad ko tsaka yung ginawa kong study rin on my own is that you have more variety doon sa flavor profile by playing around with the roasting than depending on the digestive tract of an animal. It's basically a novelty. If you like the idea, if you have money to spend, you want to tell that experience, the story that you drank Civet Coffee, go ahead. But is it scientifically spectacular? Nope. My experiment actually points to the idea that I can throw green beans into a septic tank of human sludge and end up with the same products. It's basically the pathogenic microorganisms that stimulate the coffee bean, the cells to produce a protein that differentiates civet coffee from non-civet coffee. Basically, ibig sabihin nun, na nagkaroon ng difference dahil doon sa mga pathogenic bacteria, microorganisms na yun. So dahil pinalibutan mo lang ng tae, actually talaga yung So kung ganun mga trip nyo, tae. Sige. Mamaya ako sasagot ng tanong kasi mauubusan ng si Jymer. Ange, mamaya na RD.
Hanggang 11 tayo dito, Doc.
Si James Hoffman naman, gagawin niya lahat ng pwede naman gawin. Nag-brew siya ng 100. But will he tell you that he likes 100? Did he say that he liked the 100 degrees Celsius? I doubt.
Yeah, I forgot to check that out.
Ginagawa niya lahat ng pwedeng gawin. Mina-microwave niya nga, inu-ultrasound niya nga rin.
Ultrasound, double grind.
Ganun naman ang gagawin mo kapag ka may Patreon ka at saka kapag ka marami kang YouTube followers na ang trabaho mo na lang sa buhay ay mag-experiment. So,
experiment.
I still have my day job, so I don't know. Maybe pag nag-retire siguro ko, pero you wouldn't want to see a 65-year-old doing a YouTube channel.
Why not?
Jerby, if you want to capture sweeter notes, what parameters do you need? Papasagutin natin si Nathan mamaya. Yung mga magagaling mag-brew.
Brewers.
Of course, the science there is, Let Nathan and Jymer talk about that, and then let's tell you the science. Mamaya natin yung iba. Si Jymer muna, ha?
Okay. Sige. Ayun, so medyo bitin.
Okay, thank you, Doc Mel.
Don't worry, may part 2 tayo next week, and we'll set that up. But of course, please do join our group. It's Arcana Coffee Ph. From there, I'll be posting a lot of details for our upcoming episodes. Ayan. And again, thank you so much, Doc Mel, for the science of coffee. And now we are going.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'd like to acknowledge Breaking Bad for my background.
Wow.
Heisenberg ba yan?
Heisenberg yan.
Tama. Okay, yan.
Okay, sorry. Jymer, your
Go ahead, Jymer. Introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Jymer David Maagad. Sasabihin ko day job ko, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm a banker by profession, but I'm a home brewer, and so technically a coffee geek. So everything about coffee is just I want to learn, I want to observe everything. So, but basically right now we're going to talk about water. What is the role of water for your coffee? So I'm just going to share a screen. Actually, I got this presentation from last year's Cebu Coffee Science Forum. See the shirt. So Doc Mel was there. It was the first time I've met him. So one of the speakers was Ralph Dale Alfonso. This is his presentation. I had to ask permission from him. So this was presented last year at the 2019 Cebu Coffee Science Forum. Last year, September 14 at Yo Coffee and Breakfast in Cebu City. So, hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, Ralph Dale, Sir Ralph is also he has a coffee shop. He's also a roaster. You can check out his IG profile. I am Coffee Madness. Basically, he's the go-to guy for all things water related to coffee. So you could he's a cool guy. You can approach him. You can ask questions. I had to ask questions also from him. So basically questions yung water, yung how much water, yung TDS, yung what should be in the water. So it's all really interesting yung role ng minerals for your coffee. So basically, water, diba? Water is a basic substance, so colorless, odorless substance found all over the earth. So billions of molecules, so basically H2O. So hindi na ako magde-delve yung I just want to make this as friendly as possible. So and then so the good thing about this, yung sa coffee, 88 to 90% of your coffee beverage is made out of water. So just a spoiler, if your water is bad, your coffee is going to taste bad.
Makes sense.
So how does it affect? So it's through minerals. So through minerals in water, it can make the best tasting cup of coffee on average beans, or it could make it bad. So how is this possible? So it really boils down to having a lot of minerals. So water in general has a lot of minerals. Yung tap water natin has a lot of minerals. So these are just one of yung minerals you can find in our tap water. So basically, your tap water here in CDO has a different mineral content. Probably siguro yung from there in NCR. I think Maynilad and what I forgot yung other water company. They have different sets of yung contents ng tap water. So I think my standard ito. And then how do we check water? So just what I'm using here is the TDS meter. So I have one here. This is just the basic TDS meter.
How much yan?
I forgot 350. I got this from Lazada.
Yeah.
I think last year. Yeah, I got this yung right after sa when so parang nabudol din. So I also have this pH meter, but then I just found out that it's not helping. It's not going to help you. So moving over, so TDS meter stands for total dissolved solids. So basically it just tells you how much minerals you have in the water. So for example, let me just skip. So for distilled water, you basically have 0 TDS, which basically pure water. Distilled or pure RO, yung sa mga water refilling stations, you could really tell if your water refilling station is regularly changing their filters if they have almost 0 or 1 TDS. So just yung mineral water ng filter water we're using here actually is around 33. So that's why I'm kind of like mixing other waters for formulating brew waters for different types of coffee. So pH meter. So ito yung pH, yung parang yung kanina. So pH stands for hydrogen. So it just measures potential hydrogen in the water. So yung ideal is 7. So it measures the balance between hydrogen and hydroxide in the water. But it different yung alkalinity. So eto, madugo na to. So we measure how acidic or basic or alkaline substances by basing using the pH scale. So basic lang, it's 1 to 14, and your neutral should be of 7. So pH stands for of hydrogen. So measure of concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. So medyo nosebleed na. Okay. So alkalinity is a measurement of the concentration of all alkaline substances dissolved sa tubig. So these are primarily carbonates, bicarbonates, hydroxides, and a few others. Alkaline actually substances buffer pH by here. These alkaline substances buffer pH. How do I put? Doc Mel also mentioned is that buffer is kind of like your shock absorber sa tubig. Okay. So for water for coffee, So the ideal brood range would normally is SEA or SEA, previously SEAA. Ideal 150 milligrams per liter. So I really do just reference lang to. How do I say this? So I've tried playing yes, different parts ng water. So I've tried playing with 150, 80. So iba-iba talaga yung preference eh. It all boils down to your preference and also to your first I would look at it is yung rose profile. Uh, general rule ko lang is for more developed rows, I'd go maybe for a higher TDS than for light rows that have much more delicate notes. The light rows 80 to 100. So, parang experiment din kayo. My preferences, note of disclaimer lang ha, my preferences may not be your preferences. So, subjective talaga to. So, you just have to experiment. Kind of like what fits to your kung anong gustong flavor na makuha mo. So ito, graph of GH. GH stands for general hardness. KH stands for temporary hardness. So ito, I think you can see also there is yung graph, yung filtered multipurpose espresso water. Sir Ralph has yung parang may ginawa siyang water specifically for his espresso, and he also has specifically for his filter. So he has two different types of water, and normally he just makes water enough for him maybe a week. So just small batches lang because storing water parang Doc, parang di ba may yung effect yung, di ba yung ano yung storage lang, parang nag-generate na siya ng parang minerals doon. So, here, ito, madugo na to. So, general hardness, how good of a chance your water has at extracting source of flavors sa coffee mo. So, when you brew coffee, the water doesn't just dissolve the components of coffee at random. So think about how magnets work. Magnets are only attracted to certain minerals. So for in this case, calcium and magnesium in your water are like magnets. So while perfectly pure water, without minerals, you could have distilled water or yung RO or reverse osmosis water can dissolve some parts of coffee. Calcium and magnesium bind to and extract specific and desirable parts of the coffee we are after. So we're just kind of like yung selecting yung good well, just little parts yung what we're after trying to extract. So the compounds in the coffee that contribute to sweet, acidic, and floral tastes and develop a coffee's body are attracted to calcium and magnesium. So calcium and magnesium together create GH or general hardness, and this is what gives your water the ability to extract great flavors. But I have to be honest, I haven't used calcium yet. I don't know where to source calcium, but you could get magnesium by using Epsom salts. And just be careful, Doc Mel actually warned us about this, to use food grade Epsom salts. Hindi yung Epsom salts na ginagamit for spa. So for here in CDO, I just got it healthy options by yung sa Ayala malls. I think you could also get there. And then For yeah, I still have to find where to get calcium. Actually, Ralph also recommended me to try out calcium, but I still have problem where to source it out here in CDO. Okay, moving on. KH for temporary hardness. So KH measures the level of bicarbonate. So bicarbonate, also known as a buffer, has the job of maintaining the water's pH level. So right around about yung recommended is 7. So if the water solution starts to become too acidic, bicarbonate has the ability to transform acids. It comes in contact into bases. So because coffee is a weak acid, bicarbonate can actually work against the acids that give coffee its flavor. So Doc Mel also mentioned this, na you see bicarbonates actually yung buffer or yung shock absorbers.
Yeah.
So it absorbs, how do I put this way? Yeah. Try eating, di ba, with mango, and di ba you dip it into salt.
Mhm.
So kind, and then so si bicarbonate actually, na-notice ko if yung brew water ko has a lot of carbonates, actually nadi-diminish niya yung perceived acidity ng coffee. So I use there are generic coffees that prefer, particularly yung really light roasted coffees, to be generally too acidic. So I kind of like increase the bicarbonate level of my water just to even out, or kind of like ma-lower down yung perceived acidity ng coffee. So a high level KH level relative to the GH level will inevitably lead to heavy, chalky, and stale tasting coffee every time. So this is just a word of caution. So having too much minerals in your water is also a bad thing. It kind of like destroys yung flavor ng coffee. Sayang naman. So, however, some KH is good because it helps to balance out a coffee's acidity. See, and promotes a more balanced cup. So, kind of like balancing act lang. So, the trick here is getting both GH and KH to proper levels and keeping them in check. So, but the only way you have to measure KH and GH is only through this titration solutions. So, which is kind of like, I think also James Hoffman also made a video on this. So I don't have this kit. I tend just a trivia. I think these are also the kits that used for yung mahilig sa mga aquarium fish. But but you also have to take note to also use yung food grade kits if you want to venture into these testing kits. I don't know where to get this. I'll have to ask someone. And then moving on. So basic minerals lang is the important minerals for your coffee is actually magnesium, calcium, and these bicarbonates. So si magnesium naman, here I don't know, let me try to zoom it in.
Yeah.
Here.
Yan, mas clear.
Okay. So magnesium, it's available in Epsom salts. So this mineral helps extract acids, which promote the coffee's inherent fruity and floral flavors. So Ralph did an experiment with us last year. So he prepared 2 different coffees. One bowl was with treated or with brew water, and the other one was without. So we had to cup both. And interestingly, the other one obviously was bland because he was using, I think, the tap. Wait, was it the? I think it was distilled water, and the other one was treated or brewed water. And when I tasted the coffee, it was interesting because I could find apple. And another interesting note was yung person beside me was when I blurted out, "Uy, parang apple too." And the other person beside parang, "Saan apple? What apple?" Hindi niya nalasahan yung apple. Iba yung nalalasahan niya eh. So interestingly, and then it was revealed after yung sa experiment was that the coffee used was for espresso roast, so it was much more developed. And di ba knowing developed roast, you would expect, di ba, yung chocolate, nutty, and then or smoky or woody. So I was surprised that I mean for an espresso roast, a developed roast, to have those fruity notes. So I'm like, wow, ito pala talaga yung nagagawa ng water sa coffee mo. So okay, I should try this. I should do this. So it kind of like invigorated yung curiosity ko. Sige, I'll do this, and then do some more research. So going back, calcium, available calcium chloride mineral helps promote body by extracting heavier or more creamy compounds and textures. So I haven't tried this yet because I don't know where to source this out, but Ralph cautioned also on using this. Use this sparingly because it would kind of like madali niyang ma-destroy yung cup mo as compared to magnesium. So here on the other side, you have buffer or bicarbonates available in baking soda. So you have these are just common. I don't know if Epsom salt is common, but for some it's just really common. Baking soda, you're off the shelf, available sa grocery stores, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. So this mineral helps balance the coffee's acidity and sweetness by limiting the presence of overly acidic compounds that can taste sour and dry. Dry in the sense na parang yung a string na you taste coffee, parang you feel dry. Yung tongue mo parang na-dry up siya. Okay, so here are the recommended levels. Wait, whoops. So here's the diagram. So here is the flavor potential. So you also have to take in yung notes. I mean, yung roast levels ng coffee, yung origin ng coffee. Kasi coffee in general, being an agricultural product, it's having a hard time parang to be consistent. So there are times na, for example, you get a batch of really good beans, and then on the next batch, parang you're missing out on a few hints of notes. So yeah, I think parang I use the water para na lang maybe enhance, not necessarily enhance, ano yung right term? Maybe extract a little bit more or some of those flavors. So yung key naman actually is yung extraction is just you limit yung what you want to extract. So what the minerals do is really extract just yung acids, and then it helps yung parang distinguish yung what could, or you could also say that what could be the potential of your coffee be. So you have here notes of nice, juicy, sweet green apple. Oh yeah, I remember the coffee during last year's experiment. Really tasted like green apple, and here has when your water has too much bicarbonates, na may muted out niya yung acids.
Okay.
Mm, preference na ito, actually there are, I know a lot, some people who really don't like yung perceived acidity or sourness ng kape. They find it weird. They find it unpleasant to them. Because they're used to yung dark roasted coffees, yung off the shelf, what's available yung sa supermarkets. They really haven't also tried yung getting sourcing out coffees from your local roasters, having them grind, pre-grind, or having really grind on the spot before brewing. So moving on, so sweet and acidic tastes get covered by lifeless flavor draining chalk. Chalk is kind of like iba. I mean, I'm having a hard time parang yung ina-explain ko yung kasi we all have different palettes.
Correct.
You have also to take into account that each one of us has a different palette. But what we could do siguro is we could even out yung playing field with having a good source of brew water. So here you can see minerals in your water will counteract the buffer and start to reveal your coffee's true flavor. So this is where the flavor shines. So, and when you have a good proportion of minerals and buffer, then you really have hit your sweet spot. So it's all balancing act lang talaga. So if you ask me what recipes do I follow, I go here.
Yeah.
DIY water recipes by Bursta Hustle. So you could also check the link here. Here. This is free. Bursta Hustle is yung water recipes na free, but yung classes they have a few online classes that you really have to pay subscription. I also took their yung percolation. It's a monthly fee. If you're really interested, you could enroll sa Bursta Hustle. They have lots of classes. They also have processing, advanced espresso. Because I'm a home brewer, I don't have an espresso machine. So what I took was the percolation class. So it's also really interesting because pero yung class naman din is brewing, hindi naman yung manual brewing in general na included yung batch brewing, yung auto drips, brewing in general. So for water recipes, you could also check here. They have a lot of how do I?
Barista.
Never mind.
Okay.
So Barista Hustle, this is a company by Matt I don't know forgot how to pronounce it. Perger. Yeah, I think it's Matt Perger. He was the 2012, if I'm right, 2012 World Brewers Cup champion. Just a little trivia. James Hoffman actually placed second yung sa first na World Brewers Cup. So here, water recipes, you really can try this. They also have a calculator if you're using distilled water or yung reverse osmosis water. So if you really want to get into calculating your desired GH and KH, you could also try here. So this is free. You can really readily check this out. So there's also a formula for to remineralize your pre-existing water. So, but you have to also check. This is where your titration kit comes handy because you have to check the GH and KH, so you would know what minerals that you would like to add in your water. If that is if you want to use your tap water. But what I do is I go here, and also there is a word of caution. So here are the recipes. What I'm using here is here their default recipe. You have also the this is just a close to Scott Rayos recommended water, and you have Hendon, Christopher Hendon's water. So you really see that here the magnesium content is really high. So what would I say? You could try this out. I mean, you should go out. I mean, you should try this.
Yeah.
Just parang you wouldn't know unless you would try it.
Correct.
So I tried using these different water recipes using the same amount, the same bean, basically the same parameters, same dose, same temp, everything. I just changed the type of water. So these are all really interesting. So normally, so what yung parang preference ko is if parang medium roast, I would go for the default barista water has yung BH water recipe nila. I kind of like find the balance, the results it gives. So that's why I'm telling you to try the different recipes so you could find what water works for you. So basically, the bottom line here is I'm sharing you this so you would know the effects of having different types of mineral water, and then what could how it affects your cup and your so you would also know that this works for me and this doesn't. So you just really have to take notes. And then, so just a note about here, there's a note about TDS. So note that the TDS given by this calculator might not be exactly the same TDS that you would see now if you measure the resulting solution with a TDS meter. Now, because this is TDS meters assume a certain ratio of ions in the water. Let me see if I could just here. So basically, if you also have to take into account yung temperature while using this. So if yung water is mainit, it will give you a high reading.
Yeah.
So normally, this one also has a wait. It also has, so aside from it also gives you a temperature. See at the bottom. So it really gives you a temperature, so you get an idea that this reading it gave you is based on the temp of the water. I mean on not yeah on the temp of the water. So just to give you a word of parang caution lang that it would give you parang false readings if your water is too hot. So if your water is also too cold, parang bababa yung readings din.
How accurate is that, Jymer?
That is wait, we all tried we did a comparison din parang similar din to, maybe it's just maybe point two or point something lang yung difference. I think different brands nag-o-offer ng different readings.
Okay.
For example, Yung brand na Xiaomi, Allen Bracero got the one with the Xiaomi, and it kind of like gave him a lower readings than this. So I can't answer that as to the so
marami ding brands din marami ding brands yan, no? Correct.
actually madaming brands nito. Just got this of yung parang regular lang sa Lazada. So just use this as reference mo.
Yeah.
So reference ko lang to if I would know the amount of this is the TTS that the water is giving me. These are the results that I find in my cup. If do I find this if this is the cup appealing to me? Yeah, parang yes or no. If no, then what should I do? If it's too acidic, then if the cup is too acidic, maybe I should try maybe increasing the buffer solution. Yeah. So, so what it does here is you make different here. So you have this is really your DIY. Now you have to make two solutions. You have your buffer and your hardness solution. I ran out of buffer solution. Actually, Ralph doesn't recommend storing buffer solutions for a long time. Your hardness solution. Wait, let me just. Got to get my jugs.
Yep. Okay. So I might buy yung water tester niya.
So I have this. So I have concentrate for hardness. Buffer na ubos na. So I still have to make new one. And then, so mix and match lang. Yung procedure naman dito is pretty self-explanatory. You just need, all you really need to have a scale. And also, actually, yung different brands ng minerals, for example, si sodium bicarbonate actually gives different brands actually gives you a different concentration. For example, if yung recipe dito indicates 1.68 grams, it really doesn't get you 1,000 ppm. For example, on dito sa buffer. So, yung brand lugar, yung generic brand ng SM would give you a different reading of total ppm if you're using yung brand na Arm & Hammer. So, what I do is I just maybe add or deduct if it's if what I'm targeting man here is yung close to 1,000 ppm. So you just make some adjustments if parang kulang yung 1,000 ppm, then just a little bit, maybe just small pinch. It's really not that scientific because you all really have to parang to be really accurate, but it depends naman sa discarte mo eh. You have to really make adjustments. Okay. So this is for your DIY water. There's a lot of resources you could find online for water recipes. Or if you're not really into making your own water, you could buy your, wait, where is it? You could buy this, third wave water. So this is their classic profile. I got this for about for 6 packs. It was about for 6 sachets of this. One sachet is good for a 5-gallon jug of water. Okay. So that's about 3.7 something liters of water. So I think you could this is easily available in Manila rather than here in CDO, because for this one I have to order this in Cebu. I had to join a group buy for this.
Okay.
Uh, but I think there are a lot of people selling it there. So if you're really not into making your own water, you could buy this. I think if I think it's not really that expensive, because this one sachet is for 1 gallon of water, of distilled water. So this is yung description sa website. So it's a patent pending formula designed to turn a gallon of distilled water into the perfect water for brewing your favorite coffees. So it's based on the popularly SCAA approved water standards, with a focus on optimized flavor for third wave style beans. Whatever that means. Each packet contains a patent pending blend of magnesium sulfate, calcium citrate, and sodium chloride. So they don't indicate how much content, which of which is in a pack of, or a sachet uh, of the third wave water. Parang trade secret na nila na yun. So if you ask me, does this work? Well, it does on me, but preference na naman din ito eh. So, wait, because I haven't really ordered, because I tried to stay away from dark roasts. I haven't tried this on dark roasts yet. So I'm really focusing on those medium or light medium roasts. So here is if you're curious about the TDS meter, so here is with distilled water, and this is the TDS meter of the third wave water classic profile. Because third wave water has different profiles naman. They also have a profile for espresso. So their classic is for the filter or drip, or basically for filtered roasts. So here, this reading was taken at a 25 degrees Celsius, or 25 degrees centigrade. It would work siguro. Really, just try. Try na lang yun. All I can say is try. You really have to try.
Medyo curious talaga ako. Maybe I will.
Yeah, you just have to try, and then
Correct.
because the tricky part here is this your brew water may not work for other coffees. This is the thing. This is the problem. So hindi naman siya paging problem. Parang challenge naman din is for example, this third wave water may work for some coffees, for others it's not. Because each type of coffee has really different yung different yung compounds. And then if you're really not into mixing your water, your off the shelf is yung Summit water. So this is Summit water, and I've also tried Volvic. It's expensive. Oh my god. But for the sake of yung parang experimenting lang, I tried using Volvic, and okay din naman. Would it really replace Summit? For me, no. Maybe for you. So really check na lang.
Yeah.
So what the label says here is that it's 110 TDS now, but just out of curiosity, maybe I'll just try to measure it if it's gone. And then interestingly, it's just at 25. It's still at 25. I don't know. I can't answer this. Okay. They're also off the shelf commercial. You also have this Aqua Code. I'm still trying to source out this. I've already messaged Connector Coffee. I've So yung sa mga CHB naman dyan, because I've seen Charles Dino using this, and I saw it in one of his posts, and then you found a message yung sa connector, and they're still trying to get this from. I did try to order this straight from them. It was way back in March, but I didn't push through with my order because at that first part of the quarantine days, the logistics was a nightmare. So I didn't push through because it may not, I may, hindi siya dadating, sayang. Baka ma-float lang siya sa warehouse somewhere. And then sayang naman. So this is from their description, ito from their, they don't have a website, but you could check out their IG accounts. Aquacode, they also worked with few coffee celebrities. You have Emmy Foco. Oh my God, really bad at names. She was rather the 2017 or 2018 World Brewers Cup champion. She's kind of like endorsing this, so I'm really curious on trying this out. Any guys in the participants, have you tried using this?
Nope. First time mo
Nope, no. So this is interesting because it says on their product page that it's their source Aquacold coffee brew. Let me just read this out. Coffee brewing water is a natural product developed to enhance the extraction of specialty coffee. So different from other chemical synthetic products in the market, Aquacold is 100% pure, natural, and made of deep sea ionic minerals, which are extracted from deep sea. So interesting. I could see Prof. Mesco.
Baka sa coffee home brew. Check that.
I don't know how did they extract this, or it doesn't say what minerals are in the pack. So I really have no idea. I just have to try it out personally. So yeah.
Okay.
You basically just have to try it.
Yes.
So just to end this, so coffee brewing can get technical. Yes, it can. I mean, it could also be as simple as you want it to be. It could also get as complicated as you want it to be. But here it is. Coffee brewing can get technical, and the better you want your coffee to be, the more technical you should get. So this is kind of like what drives me. So I just want to in that constant search of the perfect cup. Parang ganon na lang. So try and try and try. So you really have to try out different coffees. You have to try out different techniques, and then techniques, yung different parameters, yung actually it's rabbit hole.
Yeah, try and try then.
Try and try. So I encourage you to try this out, see what works for you. You could make water for your DIY. You could buy turbid water. You can buy just those off-the-shelf mineral waters. Be my guest, and then you just really have to get. The basic note is you have to take note. Really have to take note. So take note of your parameters as much. If I do on experiments, I try to keep my parameters as constant as possible. Like my dose is only 15. I grind it at, yung sa comandante ko, more or less 24. And then temp is just at 93. and then the same amount of pores, the same ratio, 1:15. So just really try to look for ways that what works for you. The how do I say this? Parang disclaimer naman din is my preferences would really differ from yours. So my palette is different from yours. So go out, explore. Parang yun lang.
Correct. Here. Okay. So I think that's the end of the presentation of Jymer. If you have any questions, go ahead, type in. And later on, before we end the stream, we are going to have a raffle again. Are you guys ready for that raffle? Then, yung price natin, tomorrow morning ko ulit, sasabihin ko ano yan. Just para may suspense. Okay? Okay, go. Q&A. Any more questions for Jymer regarding about the water, coffee?
The first, Fear Jerby, Reco using mineral water, meron sa Shopee. I haven't found that. Can you send me the link, Jerby? Sa group?
Please,
Where I can check it out.
just mag-order na.
So, also curious about also Doc Mel regarding yung sa minerals yung sa mga trade secret na, for example, third wheel water and aqua code. I mean,
Kung kayang malaman,
kung kaya ba doon malaman?
malalaman yan. Gusto ko malaman kung ano yung mga deep sea whatever na yan.
Yeah. Parang interesting din siya eh. Parang hindi naman hindi lang specify yung exact minerals. General yung deep sea minerals. Yung parang ano yun?
Okay lang, malalaman naman yan. Actually, wala akong problema doon sa minerals eh. Ang problema ko lang bakit kailangan deep sea.
Kaya
Yeah, good point.
kasi yung magnesium na makukuha ko on the surface, pareho lang naman yun na magnesium na kukunin yun.
kailangan ng deep sea, no?
Hindi ko alam kung anong mangyayari.
Marketing lang para special.
Bye. Kasama
Okay, marketing, yeah. Okay.
Kasama yung mga particles ng Kraken or mga Loch Ness Monster shit. Sige, we'll research.
So,
Madaling ma-identify yung padala mo ang sample.
Yan lang.
sige. Wait, typical hardness of RO water is 100 SCA provides it already too much. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay. So we'll go first with the raffle before we end the stream. Are you guys ready? We have 28 participants, -3. Out na kami dito nila Doc Mel and Jymer. So yeah, we have 25. So game na kayo guys. This is a hard question. Again, rules. Wrong spelling is wrong. Pabilisan lang. Pabilisan lang mag-type and pabilisan. That's the key. Okay, you guys ready? Game? Still have 25 participants, so it'll be fun. Okay, ready for the question? Okay. Ito, super dali lang nito. Okay, so the question is, ayun na. As you can see on Doc Mel's video, he's wearing a cap, right? So my question is, anong team ng baseball yung suot niya? 3, 2, 1, go! Pabilisan mag-type. Wrong spelling is wrong. I need a complete answer. Go! Tan. Okay. Yeah, di ba? Hindi yung mga ed. Sagot na naman.
Ano to? Ano to? Batanes Flying Fish.
Ano ba yung Boston Celtics, guys? Kakasabi ko lang baseball. Hello? Batangas Liga Basketball. Oh my God. But moving on, I think we do have a winner already. Okay. Gian, I'm sorry. I need the correct answer.
Correct answer. Sorry, Jang.
The correct question. Sorry, Gian. And yeah, was correct, but it's still incomplete. I think we have a winner. I think JB got it. It's the Boston Red
Yeah.
Sox.
Boston Jacks. Yeah.
Boston team. Ano ba yan? Okay, I think we have a winner. So JV Tamayo, congrats. And for your prize, I'll let you know tomorrow morning. I still have to think what to give to you. I'm still gonna check out kung anong pwede natin bigay sa'yo. But then again, congrats, JV. Okay. And if you have further questions sa mga guest speakers natin for tonight, I think Jymer, can they message you and Doc Mel if they have more further questions? Can they message you
Yeah.
on social media accounts? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, and please follow their, I think they have Instagram accounts naman or Facebook. It's Doc Mel Garcia and Jymer Maagad. Yan. Thank you guys. Congrats ulit, JV, for winning. Surprise prize. Yan. Okay, and I think that's a wrap. Siguro, we're going to have our part 2 dito sa Science and Coffee. Siguro, for our part 2, I think we have to be more specific kung ano talaga yung dapat natin discuss. Since it's very broad yung science talaga, so hindi enough yung 2 hours. So,
No.
papasurvey tayo mamaya sa chat group natin kung ano yung gusto pa nating malaman with regards to science. Okay? Okay. Are we guys good? Thank you, Doc Mel and Jymer for guesting for our little. Thank you. Ayan. Okay, so what else? Let me just stop the recording.